Dear students, welcome to our YouTube channel Vidya for Success. Yes, children, so far in this lesson, we have discussed vegetative part of the angiospermic plant as well as we discussed about the reproductive oral. So, where the angiospermic plant consists of reproductive oral. So, reproductive orals are present in the flower. So, we discussed about different conditions of reproductive orals. So, that means androecium, different conditions of androecium, different conditions of gynoecium. So, all these things we discussed so far. And we understood that the male reproductive structure as well as female reproductive structure in the flower is meant for the process of sexual reproduction. So, when the male and female reproductive structures they mature, the male reproductive structure produces male gamete and female reproductive structure produces female gamete. So, after that pollination takes place. That means the pollen grain transfer onto the stigma of the female reproductive oral. What happens after pollination? So, after pollination fertilization takes place. So, this we have already discussed in the life cycle of angiosperms, right? So, fertilization is nothing but what? A fusion of male and female gamete. So, in case of male reproductive unit, the gamete, that means a female gamete will be present. So, female gamete is present within the ovule, right? So, male gamete reaches the female gamete and it results in the process of fertilization. So, after fertilization, there are several changes can be seen in the flower. So, we know that the carpel consists of the basal swollen part that is called as ovary. Within the ovary, we have ovule. So, ovary and ovule get modified into some other part after the fertilization. Clear? So, now we are going to study the structures they are formed after fertilization. So, the first thing we are going to study about is the fruit. What do you mean by fruit? So, fruit is a resultant product of fertilization. So, it forms in the plant, in the flowering plant after fertilization. That means after the fusion of male and female gamete, one of the part of flower is get modified into fruit. Then the question is, which part of the flower is get modified into fruit? Which part? So, there is a swollen structure we have seen in the carpel that is called as ovary. So, ovary actually protects the ovule, right? So, ovary after fertilization is get converted into one of the part that is called as fruit. So, that fruit is called as mature or ripened ovary. So, it is formed as a result of fertilization. So, after the fusion of male and female gamete, ovary of the flower get modified into fruit. So, how can we define the fruit? Fruit is a mature or ripened ovary developed after fertilization. So, if the fruit formation takes place after the fertilization, such kind of fruits are called as true fruit, because the fruit formation here takes place after the fertilization, right? So, in some cases, the fruit formation takes place in the absence of fertilization. That means without the fusion of male and female gamete, the fruit formation takes place in some cases. So, it results in seedless fruits. Clear? So, such fruits are named as parthenocarpic fruit. So, what do you mean by parthenocarpic fruit? So, the formation of fruit without fertilization of ovary is called parthenocarpic fruit. So, when the fruit formation takes place without fertilization of ovary, such a fruit is called as parthenocarpic fruit. So, because of the absence of fertilization, we can't see the seeds in the fruit. So, the seedless fruits are the best example of parthenocarpic fruit. So, the one example I will give you is seedless grapes. Then we can also take the seedless banana. So, these are the few examples of parthenocarpic fruit where the fruit formation takes place without fertilization. Clear? So, the one thing we understood that not in all the angiospermic plant the fruit formation takes place only after fertilization. So there are some exception cases where the fruit formation can be seen without fertilization. So such a fruits are called as parthenocarpic fruit, right? Yes, now let us study the structure of fruit. So what are the different parts of fruit? So we have taken the examples of two fruit here. One is a mango and another one is coconut. So these two are comes under the category drupe. So why they are called as drupe? Because both the fruits, mango as well as coconut fruit, they develop from monocarpellary ovary. Monocarpellary is nothing but only one carpel is present in the flower. So that in both the cases the fruit formation takes place from the monocarpellary ovary and it consists of only one seed. In mango also we have one seed, in coconut also we have one seed. So that both are comes under the same category, that is drupe. Clear? So how many parts we can see in the fruit? So fruit consists of two major parts. So the outer wall of the fruit is called as pericarp, and within the pericarp we can see one or more seeds. In some cases one seed will be present, in some cases more than one seeds we can see. Clear? So there are two basic parts can be seen in the fruit. One is pericarp. Pericarp is nothing but the outer wall, and the another part of the fruit is seed. Pericarp may be fleshy or it may be dry. You can take the example of mango. So in the mango, pericarp is fleshy. So what are the parts we can eat? The edible part of the mango is nothing but the pericarp. So that mango is a fleshy, mango is having a fleshy pericarp. But if you take the example of pea fruit, in the pea fruit there is no edible fleshy part like a mango. So pericarp in the pea fruit is dry, right? So pericarp is nothing but the outer wall. In some of the fruit the pericarp is fleshy and in some it is dry. So based on the nature of pericarp, fruit can be divided into two different types: fleshy fruit or dry fruit. Understood? So you have to remember this one. Pericarp, if the pericarp is fleshy, that means if it is edible, such a kind of fruit is called as fleshy fruit. If the pericarp is dry, such a kind of fruit is called as dry fruit. So the best example of dry fruit is pea. And when the pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into outer epicarp, middle mesocarp and inner endocarp. So if the pericarp is very thick in the fruit, we can be able to differentiate into three different parts. You take the best example of mango here, right? So in the mango, the outer wall, this thing covering what we can see, that is nothing but the epicarp. Epi is nothing but outermost covering, right? So the epicarp is the outermost covering of the pericarp in case of mango. And very next to the epicarp there is the edible part is there. That edible part is called as mesocarp, right? And very next to the middle mesocarp there is a hard shell is present in the mango, that is called as endocarp, right? So the pericarp, if the pericarp is thick and fleshy, it can be able to differentiate into three different parts: outer epicarp, middle mesocarp and inner endocarp. So the nature of endocarp in case of mango is hard. Hard endocarp is present in the mango. And you just compare the pericarp structure to the pericarp structure of mango with the pericarp structure of coconut. So in the coconut fruit also we can divide the pericarp into three different parts. So the outer thin covering, what is there in the coconut, that is called as epicarp. So very next to the epicarp there is a mesocarp is present. Does the coconut consist of edible mesocarp? No. What is the nature of mesocarp in the coconut fruit? Fibrous. Is it not? So there is a fibrous mesocarp can be seen in the coconut. Then the inner hard shell, what we can see in the coconut, that is called as endocarp. Understood? So pericarp, if it is thick and fleshy, it can be differentiated into three different parts: epicarp, mesocarp and endocarp. So in both the cases, that means in mango as well as in coconut fruit, endocarp is hard. It is like a shell in both the case. But the middle mesocarp in case of mango is edible, but in the coconut middle mesocarp is fibrous. Right? So this is what the difference we have in the pericarp nature. So both are belong to the drupe, one same category, because they are developed from the monocarpellary superior ovary and they consist of one seed. But if you look into the nature of the mesocarp in the mango fruit is edible, but the mesocarp of the coconut is not edible. Instead of that, it is fibrous mesocarp. So this is about the different parts of the fruit. Clear? So fruit consists of two major parts. One is outer wall, that is called as pericarp, and it encloses seeds. Clear? So now we have completed the study of pericarp. Now let us move to the study of seed. Then how can we define the seed? What is the definition to seed? So seed is a resultant product of fertilization, because it is formed as a result of fertilization, fusion of male and female gametes, right? So which part of the female reproductive unit is get converted into seed? This is the question, right? So we have already seen that ovary after fertilization get converted into fruit. So ovary encloses many ovules, right? So how many ovules are present in the ovary? Those many ovules are get converted into seeds after fertilization. So that ovule after fertilization develops into seeds. Say for example, ovary consists of only one ovule. So how many seeds we can see in the fruit? One seed, right? Or you can consider the ovary consists of 4 ovules. So after the fertilization in the fruit we can see how many seeds? 4 seeds. Clear? Suppose if the ovule number is 10, we can see 10 seeds in the fruit. Understood? So because the ovule of the ovary is get converted into seed after fertilization. So because the ovule is modified into seed, the number of seed has remained same as the number of ovule in the ovary, right? So ovule after fertilization develop into seeds. Seed is made up of seed coat and an embryo. So there are two structures we can see in the seed. So the outermost covering of the seed is called a seed coat, and seed encloses embryo. So this is about the seed, right? So we have two different categories of angiospermic plant. One is monocotyledonous plant and another category of plant is dicotyledonous plant. In these two category, the seed type is not same. So dicot plant consists of the seed. The seed will be having 2 cotyledons. But if you look into the monocotyledonous seed, the seed consists of only one cotyledon. So the structure of dicot seed and monocot seed is not same, right? Yes, what are the parts of embryo? Why the embryo is present within the seed coat? So embryo is the future plant, right? So embryo consists of two basic parts. One is the embryonal axis and another one is one or two cotyledons. As I said, the number of cotyledon based on the kind of plant. If it is a monocotyledonous plant, the number of cotyledons will be 1. If it is a dicot plant, the cotyledons will be 2. Right? So, the embryonal axis, so that means the embryo consists of two main parts. One is embryonal axis and another one is 2 or 1 cotyledon. So, let us have a look into the structure of dicot seed. So, this is the gram seed, Bengal gram seed we have taken as an example to study the structure of dicot seed. So, in the first diagram, we can see the outer structure of the seed, and in the second diagram, we can see the embryo structure, because as we understood about the embryo that embryo consists of cotyledons and embryonal axis, right? So, first let us study about the seed coat. So, in the dicot seed, the outermost protective covering of the seed is seed coat. So, seed coat is of two layers, right? So, the outer seed coat is called as testa and the inner seed coat is called as tegmen. Clear? So, as we studied the ovule structure, so ovule consists of two coverings. So, outer integument and inner integument. So, both the covering of the ovule is get converted into seed coat after fertilization, right? So, how many seed coat we have in the seed, dicot seed? So, there are two seed coats are present. So, the outer seed coat of dicot seed is named as testa and the inner seed coat is named as tegmen. And on the surface of seed coat, we can see a small scar that is named as hilum. You can find in the diagram. So, at the tip of the seed coat, we can see a small scar that is nothing but the hilum. What do you mean by hilum? So, hilum is the point from where the seed is get attached to the fruit. So, because this is the point from where the seed is get attached to the fruit, after removal of the seed from the fruit, we can see the small scar like structure. Clear? So, hilum is a scar on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. So, hilum is a point of attachment with the fruit. Then, just below the hilum, just above the hilum, we can see a small opening that is called as micropyle. So, what do you mean by this micropyle? So, ovule is consist of an opening, right? So, through which the pollen tube enters into the ovule for the fertilization, right? So, that opening will be present in the seed also, right? So, the opening of the ovule, what we named as the micropyle, that is retained in the seed after fertilization. So, this pore is used by the seed for exchange of respiratory gases. So, for exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide, so as a result of metabolic activity, this pore is utilized by the seed. So, micropyle is a small opening can be seen just above the hilum on the surface of the seed. So, this is about the outer structure of the seed, right? So, I will repeat once again. So, on the outside, the seed consists of, dicot seed consists of the seed coat. It is of two layers. So, the outer seed coat is called as testa and the inner seed coat is called as tegmen. and we can see the small scar-like structure at the tip of the seed. That scar-like structure is a point from where the developing seeds will get attached to the fruit. And just above the hilum there is a small opening can be seen. So this opening is used for exchanging respiratory gases. Then one more part of the seed is embryo. So embryo is just enclosed within a seed coat. If we open the seed coat, we can see the embryo. So what are the parts of embryo? So embryo consists of two cotyledons in case of dicot seed, right? And also it consists of embryonal axis. So just you observe the second diagram. So that is the actual structure of the embryo. So embryo consists of two cotyledons. What cotyledons in the seed? So cotyledons actually consist of reserve food material that is needed for the future plant, right? So in order to nourish the future plant, the dicotyledonous seed consists of two cotyledons. So the cotyledons consist of reserve food material, right? And these two cotyledons in the dicot seed encloses embryonal axis. So embryonal axis actually enclosed by two cotyledons. You can see in the diagram there are two cotyledons, they are opened. At the middle of the cotyledon we can see embryonal axis. So the embryonal axis consists of two ends. So one end is named as plumule and another end of the embryonal axis named as radicle. So these are the two ends of embryonal axis. So in order to raise the new plant, what we will do is we sow the seed into the soil, right? So after a certain period of time, by utilizing water and mineral from the soil, the seed starts germination, right? So after germination in the seed we can see two parts. One is the aerial shoot and the another part is the small root, right? So which part of the embryo is actually developed into shoot? Plumule, right? So plumule is one end of the embryonal axis. It develops into a shoot. That means the stem and leaf formation takes place from the plumule. And radicle is the one more end of the embryonal axis. It forms root. So it grows towards the region of soil and plumule grows above the region of soil by forming shoot, right? Yes. In the seed, in some of the dicotyledonous seed, we can see the endosperm, right? What do you mean by endosperm? This is new terminology, right? So endosperm is actually the nutritive tissue. It is formed as a result of double fertilization. So this we have to understand properly. In angiosperms, the pollen grain consists of two male gametes, right? One of the male gamete fuses with the female gamete and it results in the fertilization, right? That is called as syngamy, so where the formation of seed takes place. What about the another male gamete? So another male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei in the embryo sac, right? So as a result of the fusion of the male gamete with the polar nuclei, endosperm formation takes place. So endosperm actually nourishes the developing embryo in the seed. Understood? So after the formation of embryo, complete formation of the embryo, in some of the seed, the endosperm will be retained. If the endosperm is retained in the seed, such a kind of seed is called as endospermic seed. Clear? So in most of the cases, endosperm completely utilized for the developing embryo in the seed. But in some cases what happens is endosperm retain after the seed formation also. So the best example is castor. So in the castor seed we can see the remnant of endosperm. That means the endosperm tissues retained in the seed also. So such a seeds are called as endospermic seeds. Clear? So just remember the definition of endospermic seed. If the endosperm is retained in the seed, such a kind of seeds are called as endospermic seeds. Example is castor. And there are another type of seeds are there in the dicotyledonous plant. Such seeds are called as non-endospermous seeds. What do you mean by non-endospermous seeds? So this kind of seeds does not consist of endosperms. Clear? If you look into the mature seeds, those seeds do not show the presence of endosperms. So such seeds are called as non-endospermous seeds because the endosperm completely utilized for the developing embryo. So that we can't see the endosperm in the mature seeds of dicot, right? So based on the presence or absence of the endosperm, the seeds are divided into two different types. If the endosperm is retained in the mature seed, such a kind of seed is called as endospermic seed. Example is castor. If the endosperm is completely utilized, we can't able to see the endosperm in the mature seeds. Such a seeds are called as non-endospermous seeds. Best example is gram and bean. Right? So gram and bean, they are the example of non-endospermous seeds. So one thing you keep in your mind, in the dicot seed, endosperm will not be retained in the mature seeds because endosperm completely utilized for the developing embryo. But only in some cases we can see the embryo in the matured seed. But in case of monocot seed, endosperm will be present in almost all the cases, right? Reverse in case of dicot. In the dicot, there is no endosperm in most of the seeds, only there are few exception cases, right? Yes, this is about the structure of dicot seed. So what are the two things we have studied in dicot seed? One is the seed coat and another one is the embryo, right? Yes. In our next video, let us study about the structure of monocotyledonous seed.